everyone, welcome back to another edition of StarSound Speaks. This is your host, Irliana Samsara of StarSound Astrology, and it's episode 98, and I'm so thrilled because we have with us today Michael Bartlett from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yay! I'm so grateful because so if anybody had watched or listened to last week's episode, I interviewed Stormie Grace, and we talked about her YouTube Academy, right? It's like getting a free college education in astrology, and Michael is one of the teachers. So I said to her, I'd love to interview some of your teachers. So that's how I met Michael, and and we had the best chat last week, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this. This is going to be so much fun. As you'll see. So just a little introduction, Michael, if I'm going to just share with everybody who you are. So this is Michael. Michael Bartlett focuses on traditional and esoteric astrology. So I'm going to ask him, for those of you who are not familiar with these terms, we are going to explain all that. His core energetic training, highly intuitive nature, 3 decades of business experience, and over 2 decades of astrological wisdom gives him an extensively resourced toolbox he offers to his clients. Michael is the author of Astrological Mavericks. Do you have what it takes to change the world? I love that title. He offers webinars, workshops, experiential intensives, readings, speaking engagements, and teaches classes for Kepler College, hosts a weekly YouTube show called Deep Dives with New Perspectives, and is teaching Mercury and the retrograde planets for Stormie's Academy. He offers resources. His website's coremichael.com, C-O-R-E, coremichael.com, and his email address, if you want to reach him, and we'll say this again at the end of the episode, michael@coremichael.com. So yes, facilitating the change you seek. That is your moniker. So yay. So tell me, Michael, esoteric astrology, tell us, what is esoteric astrology? Because a lot of the listeners were just, learning. I'm like the tour guide to the astrological cosmos and showing the vast smorgasbord of what's available. So.
Yeah, I think of astrology as being like this, great field that rabbits have like burrowed in, and it's like you just fall into any number of rabbit holes that just follow you into any number of aspects of astrology. And that's what's really so exciting, because each of us has our own way of looking at things, and astrology helps us to understand why. And for me, esoteric astrology kind of came about. I've always had a very spiritual slant on life. And the idea behind being spiritual is finding one's own path, finding one's own way in relationship to the world, in relationship to even religion, learning through religion what, parts of it that are right, and then seeing what the underlying energetics are, and seeing, kind of synthesizing and understanding life from a very different kind of a standpoint. And what I appreciated about hearing about esoteric astrology is that it takes traditional astrology and it's like it adds like an octave of it. And so what we think about is like, we look at our regular birth chart as being a view on our map of what our personality is going to be doing, but it also reveals what our soul is up to and what our soul is here to do. Something that maybe, if you believe in reincarnation, that idea that we come back here many lifetimes to accomplish certain things or to learn certain things for the collective, which is one of the things I believe in. It's like it helps us to see that there's a way in which the soul is continuing to work on something, and where there might be issues between how the personality, our career, life-driven kind of self is versus our soul-driven, or a part of us that wants to look at the world from a much larger perspective.
Yeah, thank you. That's well said. And that's the thing. I mean, astrology has, there's so much that we can discern in astrology, and it's fascinating. I'm thinking even like the branch of financial astrology that can look at market cycles and such, and we can all be fascinated with that. But like you said, the soul, it's like there's something about that's what drives us. It's like people might say, well, when am I going to meet my soulmate? Or can you show me things in my chart regarding relationship, soulmate? And that's understandable, and that's fine. But there's that deeper level, and I'm always inviting people to go deep, and that's why you like esoteric, because it takes you into those deeper places, and like you said, a higher octave. So like for example, a rising sign, you know, it might be like I have Libra is, you know, I have Libra rising. So Venus is the traditional, you know, the ruler of Venus. I mean, Venus is the ruler of Libra. But in esoteric astrology, I found out that Uranus is the rules Libra. And I'm like, wow. And that makes so much sense. I mean, it made for me. So I just wanted to ask you, you know, what do you feel about all that?
I mean, exactly. I mean, I love that. I mean, it's just actually, I get goosebumps even just as you say that, because it's like, you know, when you think about it on the personality level, Libra is on the ascendant level is dealing with polarities all the time, right? It's all about choice, the right choice, the wrong choice, this person, not this person. You know, I'm with you, I'm against you, I'm not sure. You know, I want to have both desserts. You know, I want neither one of the desserts. You know, I don't know how it
Right.
comes across. But when you think about it, the reason for understanding about polarities, you know, which basically are oppositions, right? You know, the full moon phase, it's learning all the different aspects of it along that continuum. And Uranus is that on the esoteric level, it's considered a seventh ray planet, and the seventh ray is about synthesis. And in order to have synthesis involves not just looking at, oh, the black side of things or the white side of things, but every level of gradation of gray from white to black in its gradation, and then from the darkest to the lightest. And
Nice.
in a sense, it's also the thing that underlines the esoteric teachings anyway, because the idea is that we're all what's called ensouled matter. And the idea is that we are physical beings. The physicality of our world is spirit at its most dense, where spirit or soul is physical matter at its least dense. And we as human beings are this amazing combination of it. And so for me, like I have a Jupiter Neptune opposition going from Taurus to Scorpio. So I always think of it as the sacred to the profane, you know?
Right.
But it's like, but that's what life is. And, you know, the hard part is I think most religions speak of, you know, sort of a bastardization of one side or a denigration of one side. You know, the physical side is bad, but you know, one day you'll die and have this wonderful part on the other side. Well, you know, the truth is we end up spending a lot more time on whatever that other side is of eternity than we do in this physical body.
Yeah, you know, you remind me of I've been reading it's Madame Blavatsky's Isis Revealed, and it's not Isis, the nasty people out there doing bad things in the world. This is the real Isis, being the Egyptian deity, goddess. And anyway, it's one of those, I'm sure you're familiar with this book, but it's but she talks about that. And I think she figures largely, doesn't she, in esoteric astrology, which is really strong.
I mean, to be honest, her book is the first book in I want to say it's in the Sacred Doctrine book that she has like but it's like basically just one-liners. But it's really Alice Bailey who in the 1930s channels this work through Jwal Khul, the master. And what I love about it is his delineations, like what you said, is that, you know, the other one I love, I mean, each one of them I think is just really exciting, the esoteric rulerships, but another one is like Mercury for Aries. Like, think about it, like Aries, who's like, you know, driven by Mars all the time, is like, you know, where angels fear to tread, they're going to run off, and, you know, I'm going to run off that cliff and I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be fun. Whereas, you know, Mercury comes in as the esoteric ruler, you know, and it says, hey, why don't we think about this for a moment?
Right. Have another point of view.
Good idea.
It's okay to have a little step back, and yeah, fascinating. Yeah, those but because it does give a whole nother dimension to the chart.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've found in amazing things at Venus, but on a deep soul level, it's like, it just seems so, it's almost like too surface. So the esoteric gives you that whole higher, like you said, the higher octave. And that's what we have to consider these things, because we are, my teacher in ancient astrology at Chuta Baba Das and Nightline Astrology, he talks about this in in his podcast and in our classes. He says, we're spirit souls, we're spirit souls. And it's like, yeah, you know, this is what I love is, and I think that's what people are craving too, personally, I think, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. What are they really craving in astrology is that sacred connection. That's really what they're asking for.
Yeah, I think one part is that sacred. I'm surprised actually for how much I teach with esoteric astrology that I don't do more readings in it. I throw it in, I kind of blend it because 99.9% of the people who come to me really are actually very conscious beings, and they're really working on things that are, you know, they're really kind of wanting some guidance that isn't, you know, all that simple, and they're like at a place that they're really ready to understand it. But for the most part, you know, I just kind of just toss it in and see kind of what the person, you know, what the person's response is. So, you know, because in a way, the hard part with a lot of the way the esoteric stuff is written is it's done in this Edwardian obfuscation, you know, like it's so clandestine. And when you think about it, it's basically, they're trying to do mystery school teachings in print, which really, you know, didn't ever happen in history, right? You didn't write the mystery schools down. These were oral traditions. These were things that, you know, you shared and, you know, we understood through our rituals and, you know, that we had to pass, you know, in order to do it. But, you know, so here they're writing and they're trying to figure out a way to write it so that people can understand it. And when I first started reading it, I actually threw away the book because it drove me crazy. Alan Okin gave me the, you know, Serving Humanity. I read it a few times. I was like, oh my God, just tell me what you want to say. You know, and I threw it away. And I went and I sat in one of his classes one time. He invited me, and all of a sudden, like there was just something that clicked in my head, and then it was just like it all made sense to me. And so I think. And I'm hoping that there's a way that I'm teaching it that can honor. I'm sorry?
You were ready for it then.
I was ready for it, but also I think there's just like, sometimes I think we all are we all provide frequencies. And I think sometimes certain frequencies allow for things to unlock in us, so to speak, so that it opens up when we're, you know, when we're quite ready, you know.
Timing, yeah. Timing is everything. Yeah. Cool.
Astrology teaches us that.
What was that? I didn't hear.
Astrology teaches us that timing is everything.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's it's all about cycles of time, and I love seeing that. To me is fascinating to see the cycles and how, you know, I always like to say, you know, history doesn't repeat itself, but it damn well rhymes. I read that somewhere. I'm like, I'm adopting that. And that we see that so much in astrology. Like, for example, I know that right now, I know we're going to talk about Saturn retrograde. You know, one of the things that I wanted to, you know, move on to was, well, your work with Stormie and what you're teaching there. And then Saturn's about to retrograde a month from now. So today is Friday, April 23rd. And it's May 23rd, Saturn will go retrograde at 13 degrees of Aquarius. And Saturn spends about 5 months there. So I'd like to talk to you about that. But I know that I didn't mention this to you, Michael, but I also know that it's next week or any day now. I think Pluto is going to go retrograde. And that one we tend not to really look at so much. Why? Because it's the last stop on the train, and Pluto spends half the year retrograde, you know, so it's like not just a huge thing because it's half the year there. It moves 2 degrees, right? But the reason I'm bringing this up is because, and I've been tracking this, the USA chart has, I think a lot of people know who are familiar with astrology, the USA is in its Pluto return, right? It happens every 248 years. And so it is now back at the same point that it was when the American Revolution started and our country started. So, but right now at 26 degrees, 40 something minutes, it's going to retrograde there. And that is, when I looked back in history, I wanted to see where it's 20, I think it's 26 degrees, 33 minutes for the USA chart, July 4th. But I looked back to see when was it at 26 degrees, and it was the Battle of Lexington and Concord, which for anybody who's listening that, you know, needs a little refresher, or maybe you're in a foreign country and you know, maybe not that up on or don't remember all so much of our history, right? But it was the first battle. The first battle. It was April of 1775. So in terms of Pluto, we're there, but we're not, because of course we're in a different frequency now with consciousness and all, but we're seeing the same themes about, okay, this structure doesn't work. We gotta throw it out, and it's not getting fixed. It doesn't get adjusted. It just gets completely dismantled. And that's when you said earlier about people being, clients and all, like, the esoteric it's like people want to, I think that, and I know I had this problem last year when I was telling people, or a year and a half ago, like, hey, 2020 is coming, and I know we're here to talk, and I will, of course, will address everything in your chart, but it's my obligation as an astrologer to say there are some vast changes taking place, and we're all going to really see them in 2020, and it's going to blow everybody's mind. And I just have to tell you this because, yes, I likened it to, it was like, I said, it's like Paul Revere, like right now in our country, it's like Paul Revere is riding his horse down the street saying the British are coming, and you're trying to plan a wedding. So there are forces that are huge that are going to impact that wedding. And it's not normal that you have to deal with that kind of thing. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Sounds like the beginning of a Monty Python skit.
You're so funny. Right. Oh, can you imagine if they did that? That would be great.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
You see Terry Gilliam on one of those horses, and blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to plan my wedding. It's like, you can't.
Don't mind Armageddon. It's okay.
It's
the wedding must go on.
It's only Armageddon. The show must go on. I guess. I knew it was going to be fun interviewing you. I know it.
Yeah, we'd have a blast.
Oh my God, you're so Monty Python. Monty Python meets astrology. Oh, it's just a Pluto return, darling. Nothing to worry about.
Don't worry. Just a flesh wound.
Oh my God, you're great. Now I lost my train of thought. Oh my God. Well, that's good.
I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you talk about it. So like Pluto going retrograde in Capricorn, and then Saturn going retrograde in Aquarius. So here's this, very, these themes, right? Of like kind of like reworking, these outer, like transforming the vessel. I like Pluto and Saturn together because to me, it's like the ultimate alchemy. Like Saturn's the one god who can handle Pluto. It's the lead, it's the lead that can hold the radioactivity and support it while it's degrading, while it's doing something, beyond. I mean, radioactivity, like those whole radium, like plutonium and things like that, they're like super, they're almost in a way considered to almost be super conscious stones, because like when you think of like Geiger counters, that's for earthquakes, but Geiger counters, sorry, I was thinking about, Geiger's for seismic, sorry. The one that counts the radiation.
Right. Right.
I mean, they actually vibrate.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of Pluto that way. That it's like it's a super conscious quality to it. Wow, I love that.
Think about anyone who's very like in my book, I talk about, it's about people who have planets on the angles, and people who have Pluto on the angles or strong Plutonians. I mean, you can't help but feel them in any room or in any area, I mean, there's just something, there's a tuning fork that's vibrating in a way, and you're kind of like,
right.
I can go in there, but I'm not going to walk away the same person.
Right. Yeah. Transformed completely. Saturn's the only one. You're right. That's a good point about Saturn's the only one that's not afraid of Pluto. Everybody else was like, oh my God, it's Pluto.
Saturn's daddy, right? Saturn is Pluto's daddy too. So.
Right.
Kind of helps.
Right. It kind of helps.
And Pluto's hanging out in Saturn's home. Pluto's hanging out in Capricorn's home. So it's kind of like that. You got kind of like super going around. And Saturn's in Aquarius. It's under rulership. So, he's feeling pretty good. He's a little bit high and mighty because, Aquarius, Aquarians can be very high and mighty. Aquarius sun here.
Right. And also in ancient astrology, Saturn rules Aquarius. So he's in his domicile. Saturn's in its domicile, so it's
Okay.
definitely, yeah, very powerful alchemy. Yeah, so I'm just, and then that whole, I tracked it. Let me see if I have this. I always write these nerdy little things down. But oh yeah, here it is. So this is going to be, I wrote down in my notes, it started in February 28th. So it's been a couple of months that it went to the 26-degree point, and it'll be there to June 29th. It retrogrades in a few days at 26 degrees 48 minutes. So it's within 6 minutes of that exact point of the Battle of Lexington and Concord. And it'll retrograde, and it'll go back at 26 on January 2nd of next year. And then it'll be exactly at that Lexington Concord point, I'll call it, on the 24th of January, 2022. So this is a very long, it's always the slow burn with Pluto, but I just was fascinated to, and you know what I love too, isn't it interesting that as all this is going on, look at the correlation with Britain. We're obviously free and clear, but Meghan and Harry, that is a trip. And here he is going, you know what, I don't want the old royal family. That whole shtick is like so done. The racist, colonialist, it's just, yeah. And here he is and here she is.
Well, and he lost his mom to that. I mean, he saw like what his mom went, I mean, didn't really understand, but I'm sure, you know, little by little it's understanding more and more, and then to have his wife treated in that way. And I mean, the English tabloids are really,
Horrible.
they're just really brutally ruthless. I mean, I don't really know that there's really any other word, and you know, but it's what sells. I mean, you know, you can't, I mean, if that's what the population's buying, you know, it's like, you know, you can say shame on the business for doing it, but you know, they love, you know, it's like the Tattler, you know, it's just basically they love that whole, the intrigue, you know, did you see what they did last week? Did you, you know, it's
Can
like,
you believe that? Yeah.
Like, isn't your life like, get a life? I mean, my God, like I remember growing up, I don't know if you got this left from your folks, like my mom was always like, you know, well, what would the neighbors say? And like what I've learned as I've gotten older is like the neighbors are dealing with their own stuff. You know, very few people really have like the luxury of being Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched, you know, peeking in people's windows and like going, what's going on in there? Oh my God, did you know what's going on next door? You know?
Right. Or as we were talking about in higher consciousness, as we arise in higher consciousness, all of that becomes a no thing. And we don't care that we could even have a Mrs. Kravitz opening and closing her blinds, but we're like, hey, so what? I'm in my bliss, and I don't care whether you spend your day opening and closing windows. I'm above and beyond all that. And I think that's what Harry is, you know, he's, you know, he and Meghan are like, hey, come on, you know, I mean, there's a bigger, we have big fish to fry, like these Netflix deals. And he's talking about people who make a difference in life. I mean, they're putting all their focus on the new consciousness, just like in the American Revolution, right? We're like, we're done with this old paradigm. We want to move ahead where everybody counts.
Well, just like his grandmother, I mean, he's another maverick. Both of them have, I mean, he was born during his grandmother's second Saturn return. They both have Saturn in Scorpio on their midheavens.
Oh, and Queen Elizabeth and Harry?
And Harry both do.
Oh,
so I mean, fortunately, they get along with one another, because otherwise, I mean, you know, that's Saturn in Scorpio. I mean, that's, you know, you're not gonna win. You know, I mean, and I think like he just realized like it was better for him, and you know, because it's power, right? Like I'm gonna take my power. And I'm going to go where someone appreciates me and they can see me. And he's, you know, with that up there on the midheaven, he needs to be seen. He needs to be, I mean, that man can't help but be in the tabloids. I mean, he's, you know, and it's about meaningful things that are going on. You know, he doesn't want to sit there and just lay on the credentials of the Windsor family. He wants to actually, you know, kind of go forth and.
Well, when you think about the Scorpio archetype, it's like the shadow of Scorpio is control. You know, I'm going to fixate, it's fixed, you know, I'm going to control and hang on and dominate. And then, but the breakthrough, or you could say the higher consciousness aspect, is that part that says, wait a minute, I'm going to, I'm okay with breaking things down because I'm focusing on what's going to rise, what is going to come up that's better than what we had. So that's where his direction in, and it's very obvious with this whole Oprah interview where everybody's chips lay, and that he's in that different vibe.
Yeah, and he's, it's very Phoenix-like for him. And also I really appreciate, I mean, Saturn in Scorpio is also the ability to know when to speak and not, when they said, oh, well, can you say who said that? And he said, no, I'm not, and that's actually that's very astute. I mean, he's learned along the ways the cost of sharing inappropriate things in inappropriate times. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing Saturn in Scorpio will teach you, because with it being on the midheaven, basically your jockstrap or your panties are always going to be seen by people until you learn that you've got to make sure that you take care of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I see it.
There's a graphic illustration of that.
Well, Scorpio, right? It's going to be
Scorpio, right? It's going to be about sex.
It's not going to be subtle, and it's not going to be pretty, and it's going to be embarrassing to you in the most particular way. Because Scorpio just knows, oh, there's the spot. Oh, there's the spot. Just knows just how to make you say uncle.
Right. That Scorpio stinger. Make you say uncle. Yeah. So yeah, well, anyway, so moving right along. So there is that. So Saturn is going to go retrograde at 13 degrees of Aquarius. So if anybody's in a Saturn return or we'll first start with, if you're Aquarian at degrees of say, if you're an Aquarius sun or any planets in Aquarius at, I'd say between 10 and 16 degrees of Aquarius, especially from the 10 to 13, you're really going to feel this for the next 5 months. When it grabs that retrograde, even grabs that point. I remember one of my teachers telling me that it's almost like, yes, it may step back from 13 degrees. It'll go back to 8 degrees, I believe, in October. I think it'll turn around, but it still carries that 13. It's like this rubber band. It takes it with them on a ride. So it's like that imprint is made. So anybody who has planets at those points, or squaring with Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, is going to be feeling this. It'll be Saturn will either be conjunct, opposing, or squaring that retrograde. So that's a stepping back. And I just go ahead, and I know we should probably pull up the chart. Maybe you wanted to talk about that, and we can find that. Well, I gotta find that chart. Let's see. Yeah, so the 13 degrees, and how would you characterize? I know you're going to be talking about retrogrades for Stormie's Academy. What you're going to be talking about, all retrogrades in general, or just Mercury retrograde?
Well, I'm doing Mercury in particular on the 29th of April, and all about it, Mercury, including Mercury retrograde. And then on the 10th of May, I'm going to be doing all the planets retrograde.
Okay, so that's
explaining what it means, what it looks like, all that kind of fun stuff.
What to expect.
Yeah. Yep, kind of how they all operate, because just a really, I like what you said, that it gives you that opportunity to step back. It's like, okay, I can't really do anything. It's like, what is the right way of managing things? What is the right? It's almost like a hyper presentation in a sense of the planet. I almost like to think of it as being a for us oldies, but also like people who are younger now, they're starting to see it again, vinyl. I think of a record player. It's like there's something about, because when it's stationing to retrograde, it's just basically like, it's almost like it's burning into that point. So I just think of like a needle just staying in that one rut, and it just goes round and round and round until it just kind of, and it won't go on to the next spot, because it's like, it's really needing to get whatever that point is about.
And so with Saturn going retrograde in Aquarius, how would you explain to everybody, what do you think we might be looking at collectively when it's?
Well, I thought it was going to be a little bit longer time for, say, George Floyd's trial. I think this is really a great time to review, because these are our structures. Saturn is what sets up the foundations for the way we deal with society and how we look at how our organizations are set up. the police used to be considered a fraternal organization, right? It wasn't women before. So, that would fall, a fraternal or even any kind of an organization in this sense, because they're unionized is another aspect of this Aquarian thing. I thought actually, it would be a little bit more of a shifting towards the, with Amazon unionizing. I thought that would be, an option that might show up, but, maybe, what I like about the retrograde cycle is that, it usually goes over a few times over that point, like you said. So it gives us the opportunity to kind of revisit it. So, I'm hoping maybe that people, say, hey, maybe we want to look at this a little bit differently.
Right. They may reverse course of, like, for example, Amazon with the whole Alabama unionizing. Yeah, they may reverse course.
Yeah,
Or
because
at
why,
least rethink it.
yeah, because I don't know that anyone needs to be making, a million, times or a billion times what your lowest paid person is. Why not do something that is benefiting all of them? I think of, like, back to the the quote robber barons of the 19th century. I mean, a lot of them actually did things like, like Carnegie, he did universities and libraries all over the place. The Rockefellers did numerous things.
Right.
They understood about giving back. Sutra out in California, he made like the Sutra baths. He did this thing, he wanted to give back to people so that, there was an understanding, but you don't really see that in the wealth that's going on. And I part of it might be this thing, what Biden's trying to do, how, appropriately taxing the wealthy and appropriately taxing corporations, so the middle class is not being decimated. So people who aren't making that much money have a greater opportunity towards buying things. How much money do these corporations need to do? Because that's really kind of what's going on, ever since Citizens United. And I think this can play into this because, in a moment, we'll be talking about the Uranus playing into awakening this point. What is human? What is the right way of being right human relationship? That's what we look at with Aquarius and esotericism. It's the science of right human relationship. Well,
I like that.
if you're really wealthy, you don't have to worry about paying taxes because you basically make yourself into a corporation. And then because of our corporate tax laws, you don't end up having to pay any taxes. And then you get benefits as an individual for donating to charities. But all that means is all that money that could have been going into the system is not going into the system. It's not supporting our roads and our things. So, I think, this New Deal that Biden's doing, I think all these things are really well supported by this, putting the people who aren't working to work and seeing how to do it. And then at some point, how to address the whole AI that's coming up where people simply aren't going to be working because their jobs are completely automated. And how do we resolve that? There's going to have to be some level of social democracy that supports individuals.
Yeah, and every time I go to the grocery store or wherever, there are more and more of those self-checkouts. And it just pains me to think, especially with we had that eclipse in November 30th, we had the lunar eclipse last November 2020 at 8 degrees of Gemini. And that was right there on the, and that was I think we have in the United States of America chart, we have Uranus at 8 degrees Gemini. And I saw that and I'm like, oh, there it is. Here comes digital currency. And here comes the robotics in the marketplace. And this robotic thing is, oh God, don't even get me started. Gets me, it's just freaky,
But yeah, I mean, and also, thank you for bringing up the cryptocurrency, because that's what I saw immediately with Uranus going into Taurus. Originally, is like, new forms of currency, new forms of value, how we hold value. But like what I find very disturbing about the whole cryptocurrency thing is like, if it's the whole idea is it's supposed to be transparent, right? Well, then how are all these people still losing all their money?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's something that seems kind of odd to me of like the whole reason is like, oh, well, we're making it so it's transparent in this blockchain so people can see it and, da, 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 da. But then, and then they've got these special codes. But then if you lose your password, then all of a sudden, and then it's like, the abstraction of money, kind of comes into play, right? Uranus in Taurus, Saturn squaring it. It's it's what, a third quarter square? Is that what we're dealing with? Why am I not seeing it right now? Where did Uranus go? Where are you? There it is. Yeah, so it's a third quarter square. So Saturn is, this is a crisis in consciousness. Saturn is coming up to, in what, 7, 8 years, something like that. It'll be
Yes.
dealing with a reunion of those energies. So
Right.
what is it?
Every
What is it
7 years.
gained in this 3/4 of a cycle?
Yeah. So we get to look and measure and
And
yes.
like you said, what do we know? What do we not know? We don't know, right? That's what I always think about the third quarter, crisis in consciousness. It's like, I always think about like Native American people on the East Coast when the ships came in, when Columbus's ships came in, and that it took, there was no concept in their being to understand what these big things were out in the water coming towards them.
Right. Yeah, this ship, they had never seen a wooden thing like they did, and it was floating. So they figured, okay, it's a boat, but all they had were like canoes. So yeah. And these guys wearing these like, what's with the buckle shoes, whatever, and those hats, Yeah. Yeah. It's it's
Aren't you hot in all that wool?
Somebody didn't get the memo. It's humid
Right.
here.
Didn't it's all about silk and linen down here.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't have to press your clothes. We don't use irons,
Right.
Right. Ay, ay, ay. So Saturn, Saturn retrograde 13 degrees, and it'll go back to 8 degrees.
7, it looks like,
Or
right?
7?
I
7
see
or 8?
7. Like I have a sun at 6
5?
degrees, so it's gonna feel like it's gonna feel like a Mack truck is gonna be going beep beep beep
Right.
beep, and I'm gonna feel the exhaust a little bit, but it'll be like,
Here it
and then it'll start
comes.
moving forward.
Right. That's funny, backing up, right? Retrograde, I always tell people, that's literally from the Latin, step back, step back. And what I love too, and we talked about this in our my nightlight course about, and I never thought of a retrograde planet this way, but there's the distinction with primary motion and secondary motion of the planets. And when a planet retrogrades, it goes with the sun. It's in primary. So on a philosophical level, it's more in its divine nature, not the slowed down retrogressive world of the material world. So it has more of a divine aspect to it. I don't know how, I'm not sure how good of an explanation that is, but I
No,
love
it's
that.
really beautiful. I love that. I mean, have you read Erin Sullivan's book on retrograde planets? I mean, she's got that. I mean, because it's really, when you think about it, the sun is our ego, right? So there's something about when it's aligned with it, there's a way that it shows up in a different way. And her book really well illustrates, as far as, because it's about superior conjunction and inferior conjunction and the way the retrogrades happen. And I'm still, it's like, that's always like, when it comes to the science of it, is always to me a little bit more of the challenging part, because I'm a little bit more of an intuitively oriented being. So
right. But it does make, I mean, it really is amazing how like the very mechanics of astronomy, everything there it's all divine, really. The whole machinery of the universe, how we're just, this is what I love, is like astrology is not just, it's connecting us because we're not just these dudes walking around on planet Earth. We have correlation with the rest of the cosmos, and that was so shut out for so many years, thanks to the Vatican, who got very freaked out in the 17th century. By then, mostly astrology had died out. A lot more in Catholic Europe. I was just starting to read this recently with one of the books that was extra reading in my astrology course, but how Catholic Europe versus Protestant Europe, and that it was more drowned out earlier by the Catholic part of Europe, because the Vatican, the Pope at the time, was very confronted by astrology. Well, yeah, you're seeing cycles of life, and then you can be empowered by these and plan your life. Well, that for an institution whose sole desire was to, conquer and dominate, that's not a good, let's get rid of, right?
Well, and it also kind of is contrary to the fact of them being the power, right? It's like,
Right.
well, and it's funny too, because what do we find every time Pluto's in Capricorn? A major shift to the Catholic Church. Luther and Henry
Right.
VIII, was when Pluto was in Capricorn.
Right.
Francis, although, I was very excited about him, and then unfortunately he goes back and forth on the whole same-sex relationship thing, and now has gone back, and it's just like, it's just kind of unfortunate. And the sad part is I think that people don't, at least how I look at it is, I see actually certain religions as being spiritual abuse, because what it fundamentally does is it prevents people from having their own direct connection with the
Mystical experience.
divine, and whatever you call that, if you, God, goddess, all that is, the universe, whatever, however you want to say it, we're all connected with that. And anything that separates from you from that, or anyone who tells you that you're not connected to that, is an idiot. Sorry.
And I like what Eckhart Tolle said about religion. People ask them, like, could a person reach enlightenment through what we would say organized religion? And he said, there are windows, but they're very small. There are these lucky few that get through the matrix, so to speak, and I think of the people like I grew up in, went to Catholic school, and we learned about, Bernadette of Lourdes and Fatima and all these, mystical religious experiences.
Francis.
Yeah, St. Francis and John of the Cross, St. John of the Cross, and, the various mystics. And, how did they happen to, Padre Pio comes to mind, but they, of course, they have a pretty amazing, extraordinary astrological charts, which you could see it, astrologically, but the fact that they were able to transcend that, they had a greater capacity to, because of their life plan. But yes, they were able to move through that. But yeah, the average Joe, it's just not set up like that. And so it falls on us. It's not about looking to the outside for that. It's not about expecting an outside structure to, quote, take care of us. But yeah, it's the work, whether we are in a religion or in a faith or not, it's really, ultimately it falls on us to generate that. And if we have that desire to do the work and the shadow work, or whatever it is, to have that revealed to us. But yeah, anyway.
And one thing that you said is, you say that too, like, I wonder, the Catholic Church was also really good at co-opting things, co-opting holy sites, co-opting holy people's work, manipulating, like telling Galileo, threatening him with excommunication if he doesn't recount, saying that the world is, that we don't live in a heliocentric world.
Right.
That's what they wanted him to say, even though everything that he was able to say, was true. And this is, it's kind of important to see, that and here we have like the flat earthers are back again, so, it's like, it's like you said, we keep revisiting. It's like, if, that's the humor of the cycles, right? And that's why it's really great in readings. Like, I always love like saying, like, looking back when this was the last time when someone started, well, what was it like when, this many number of years ago, like Jupiter, how was it 12 years ago for you? Saturn,
Sure.
How was it 29, 30 years ago? Like, this is going to be along that theme. You're here working that theme out in your life. Either you've resolved it and you moved on to something else, or you're still chewing the cud.
Right. Yep. I know. I love pointing that out to clients. It's like saying, okay, now, Venus retrograde, and, what were you doing 8 years ago? And this crumb guy that I broke up with, he was cheating on me. I'm like, well, guess what? Here are some themes. Not that somebody's going to cheat on you again, but these themes and qualities and energies are going to be revisited. And now that you have evolved in this space, what will that look like? So yeah, it definitely gives us a handle, especially for the client. Oh goodness. Oh, I just got visited by, excuse me, but we have a guest here. Hi everybody. This is Toby. No. All right, you interrupted my point, but that's quite okay, because maybe I just didn't need to make it. But so you're yes, okay, excuse me. Give you the mic. Your work with Stormies, you hooked up. How did you meet Stormie? I'm just curious, and how did that all come to pass, and all that juicy stuff?
Sure. I got an email from her one day, and I had not heard of her, and I went on and looked online and saw, kind of what she was doing. And I'm like, wow, she seems really cool. And she had me on her show to talk about it, and we hit it off really well. And just like, kind of like how you and I are, and just blabbed away about anything. And
I know
just really enjoyed ourselves. And she didn't tell me that she was even doing this, the free academy. And then one of the guys who I referred, Bill Duvendeck, I said, hey, why don't, Bill, I think would be a great person to talk. So next thing you know, like he's teaching. I'm like, hey, now, wait a minute.
I want to do.
Yeah, I want to do this. So I emailed her. And so she said, oh my God, that'd be really great. And so she said, how would you like to do Mercury and how would you like to do retrograde planets? And at first I was like, oh, those are okay. And then I thought about, I was like, Mercury's actually really, really significant. When you quote, think about it,
Right. When you step
everything,
back
the way we process, the way we think, the way we communicate, the way we move. I mean, pretty much our whole interaction with everything in life is thanks to Mercury.
And think about and you are so lucky because you got the most popular astrological meme and topic, right? People who don't know anything about astrology have heard of Mercury retrograde. So there it is. They're going to come flocking to that door, flocking to those classes.
I better make it good. And then she tied me into doing the retrograde planets, and I was like, oh, retrograde planets. But the truth is, there's a part I like it. And one of the best books out there ever is still Aaron Sullivan's book. I don't know if you have it or if you've read it, but I mean, just a wonderful humanistic, psychoanalytical understanding using the Greek gods as themes. Also, astronomy is like how they do it. So like I do my classes very PowerPoint based. I love visuals because I think too many words short circuit a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I have Uranus trine Mercury, so I mean I can blab, nonstop, like a brrr, and you're like, oh, stop. My partner usually like, okay, too many words. It's enough. Just give me a second.
But that makes you a great astrologer. Mercury trine Uranus, the two planets that are so closely aligned with astrology, and every astrologer has them prominent in their chart somewhere, somehow, somewhere.
You have to, because it's again, when we talked about earlier, it's this way of like synthesizing and bringing these understandings of these ideas. And when you think about it, before 1781, we didn't even know about Uranus. So Mercury basically held the place of Uranus. And this plays this wonderful psychopomp, this ability to like be up with the gods up on Mount Olympus, hang out with the humans on Earth, and be down in the underworld with his brother, Hades, Pluto, and just like taking people onto the other side. And so it's really just, I'm really honored. It's really fun. I'm so excited to be a part of this opportunity for people to learn good astrology for free. So that people can understand what their cycles are. I originally got involved in astrology, because I was a psych major at UC Santa Cruz. Mm-hmm. And in 1999, I moved here to Santa Fe, and nothing in my life worked. It was like really weird, like no relationships, couldn't find work. Everything just really basically stopped. So I went and saw an astrologer here in town whose name is Tom Brady, not the football player. Right. And he really phenomenal astrologer, still a dear friend up to this day. And I said, well, you have 3 things going on in your chart that really only happen like once every 240 years. And so Pluto on my ascendant with Chiron, and then there was a Neptune something or other going on. So he says, all I can tell you is you are not going to look or be anything like what you used to be. And whatever it is that you're attached to, don't expect anything that you're attached to happen with it. And then he said something what I really loved. He says, and you know what? Don't try and kill yourself, because I've had a few clients who have tried to kill themselves. And he said, it's really kind of a bummer, because you wake up from it with the uncomfortableness of realizing that you tried to kill yourself and were unsuccessful. And then you have the embarrassment of sharing with your friends why you tried to do it. He says, Pluto's not going to let you get away with that. This is about you having to let go of these things that are really crucial in your ego. And so he says it's a 4-year process. So then I went and found out about core energetics, which is this therapeutic program, did that, all the while continuing to learn about astrology. Because what I don't like about psychology is the pathologizing people. the labeling, oh, you know, you're
Right.
schizophrenic or you're paranoid or whatever. Like, well, you know what? I can actually 99% of the time show those elements in a person's chart.
But it's
So,
not who they
or,
are.
and it's not who they are, or it's by transit, right? You know, like for me, like to
Right.
realize that, you
Right.
know, for how many of us deal with Pluto transits, anyone dealing with any of the outer planet transits to your chart, it's so significant and so, Pluto, I mean, it's the myth. I mean, you're walking along minding your own business, and he takes, you know, your Persephone, and he takes you down into the underworld, and he goes, "Hey, you're going to go into hell for a little while." And it's not the hell you think it is. It's just your hell based on your own personal life. It takes another line. Tom says, "The great and terrible simplification." I love that line for Pluto because it's like it takes away all the unnecessaries, all the luxuries, whatever your ego thinks is a luxury in your life, prepared to have it removed
What
because
was
it's
that
about
line again?
you,
Can you tell
the
me?
great and terrible simplification.
The great Pluto represents
Pluto.
the great and terrible simplification. Gosh, who said that?
Tom Brady. He
Tom.
said it's one of the,
Okay.
one of the ancient terms for Hades. And it's really, it's
Wow.
like, because it's like you don't, you know, when you think about it, when you're crossing the river Styx, you don't get the luxury of all your little things. You know, those of us who live here in the United States who have like a certain quality of living, you know, you start, when you get thrown in jail, when you're in a different country and a coup happens, you start to really see what rights you have. What, you know, rights are a luxury,
Mm, yeah.
you know, that some of us have been given without having earned them.
Having
And
earned.
when they start getting stripped away, you know, and that's what Pluto does. It strips it away in an uncanny way, ways that you just like, and the way I like to think of it is it's radioactive. So it's like, you can hold on to that. Oh, that's important. You know, oh, you can hold on to that. But the more you hold on to it, like you lose your fingertips, then you lose your
Hey,
hand, then you lose your wrist. Oh, you still
uh,
want to hold on to it? Oh, well, then you're going to lose your elbows. I mean, how
wow.
stubborn are you?
That's a
That's what Pluto
great.
teaches us, right?
I love that, Michael. Thank you. Can I borrow that with clients? I'll give you
Anytime
all
you
the
want.
credit. Gosh, I love
Anytime
that.
you can even use it just as your own because but it's like, you
Uh,
know, and that's why I like Saturn when I talked about Saturn earlier, because Saturn's the one planet can kind of like hold Pluto. But if you, us little peon human beings, we try to hold on to it like, oh, I'm above that. I can do it. Especially astrologers, you know, we always get arrogant, like, oh, I know because I know it, I'm going to get beyond it.
yeah, right. Ha ha. Right.
The key word, surrender.
Yeah.
Anything that deals with Pluto, you just say surrender. Like get yourself naked on the floor, on your knees, put your head, you know, the yoga pose, you know, the downward facing dog,
Right.
anywhere where your heart is, your head is below your heart because it's
Right.
not going to work from this place.
Or death. It's like this is a death of the
Yep.
ego and a death of the illusion
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
that
Yep.
whole the dying to. And I know there's some line in the Bible that talks about it was a St. Paul that said something in reference to such and such. I die daily.
Mhm.
And then we look at what is the interpretation of what does it mean to die daily? It's like well, in modern parlance, it's you have to get off it. You have to get off it 20 million times a day. Every moment the ego wants to do you in. It's like, oh, let it go, let it go. We're dying in those. Every moment we really are
Oh, that's
dying,
beautiful. Yep.
and
Yep.
that's the real death.
And Scorpio is the only sign that's willing to admit that, and all the other ones are pretending it's not happening.
Right, right. Scorpio's that tough, get real, man. This is how it is. Yeah, wow, awesome. Wow, I just love the way you phrase things. This is amazing. You have to come back. Oh my goodness.
I would love to have
Ah,
me back as much as you want. This is fun. You're
yeah,
awesome.
I love it. I love it. I have to look at it trying like, oh, now I can see it in my chart. This is why I love Michael. I see because we have this, we have this, we have this. It's like, yeah. So I looked at I didn't have Stormie's chart, but she told me where a few of her placements. I'm like, oh, no wonder I'm in love with this girl. Oh my goodness. We have all this Venus, Libra. I think she has Taurus rising, I have Libra rising. So we both have Venus ruling our ascendant. So we're just connection. Yeah.
You all are love goddesses, and it's just like so. And just to see like the sacred feminine just like coming back in, and because the hard part is, I mean, there's just so many. And what I love about her, what she's doing is, up to this point, it's just been so like white male. And it's like,
Yes.
how boring, because 90% of the people who come to you or come to us are women,
Right.
not men. It's very rare for men, because men, it's just like asking for directions, because astrology,
Right.
astrology is a map, right? So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
then like, I know what I'm doing, and I have to admit, I have that male side. I understand that part of me and I have to do that part. But it's like, but most of the part is the women have that understanding. They understand that, that esoteric, they know there's something greater going on. Men kind of have to keep hitting their head against it until they get to 40, 50 years old and have done some kind of work, or hello, Uranus opposition, ding,
Right.
at 42, that kind of
Judging.
awakens you like, hey, I might be here for something a little different.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing. It's very rare to have men, but hey, now we get to change all that with our Pluto and Capricorn. It's like, let's take down that male patriarchy, hierarchy thing, and let's just flush it through with the divine feminine. And yeah. Yay.
Because, up to this point, at least so far, every single one of us has been born of woman. And, it's time, we can't denigrate. This is like kind of like one of my like soapbox speeches, but it's like whenever anyone talks about, any of the horrible, racism, I think sexism is actually like, is like 50% of it, 50% of our population are being raised to believe that they're somehow not equal to the other 50%. And it's just like, and then it's like, then you further divide that, like, oh, if you're color, or then, then you're like, even, and it's like, oh my God, we're all brothers and sisters of humanity. We're all divine siblings. I mean,
We're all
that I
spiritual.
hope is what happens out of this Saturn retrograde period. And I'll shut up.
No, no, don't shut up. No, but that's beautiful. Yeah, the Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, and also let's look at, I see the Saturn Uranus square this year as like, okay, yes, we like last year ripped the wound open, right? All that, everything that came out, COVID, Black Lives Matter, it's like, it's all out there, and now it's like, okay, we want to build a better society, and then Saturn's like, okay, bring it, show it, let's get serious about it. Let's put a structure around it. I want to see spreadsheets. I want to see business plans. Let's make it happen, but in a new way, not the old way. And now this retrograde of 5 months is going to be like, okay, like, how are we doing with our plans? Maybe we need to tweak some plans. Maybe we need to put a boundary down where there wasn't a boundary around our plans, and our desire for that, like you said, the human, the brotherhood and sisterhood of all, the one that we are all one heart. And like, but how are we doing with that building? It's like, let's be wise about this. Let's not be foolish and rash. Uranus wants to go off like a sizzler on the 4th of July, and it's like Saturn's like, okay, now let's get okay, that's great, but let's keep that fizzle burning for a long time, right? Legacy. Let's have that be our legacy, that wild, wonderful, freely expressed divine spirit soul that lives in all of us. Let's anchor that for our next whatever how many years. Let that be our new chapter. So
And
yeah, I guess that's just what comes to me.
Yeah, and I was actually really heartened to hear that Congress is actually taking up reparations idea. There's actually,
Oh
the
yeah.
House is really, looking at the idea of actually doing reparations. So, I mean, that would be another thing that would be really great, and especially for a Pluto return. Just basically, I mean, there's nothing better. There's a line, what is it in Course in Miracles, is that there's nothing more sacred and holy than where an age-old wound is filled with love.
Oh, that's
No.
beautiful.
So like, where
Yeah.
this opportunity, like if we can like start, like, and just like the way that the Chauvin trial went on, is like this understanding of this, this is not how we want our policing to happen, and individuals need to be accountable for not following the right procedures. But, again, we have to also look at this larger system that has allowed all of this to remain in place for so long, and that has been ignored. We've had this blinder part to it. And now, thank God for
Grateful
cell
bias.
phones. Thank God for this all being brought forward, so we can all sit here and go, I don't ever want anyone to walk down the street and have any fear in their life, or driving their car, that just because of the color of their skin or the way they look, that they're going to get pulled over. That's, over like because you have like an air freshener hanging from your thing, or because you have, you know, the wrong an outdated registration sticker on your car. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, really, isn't there more stuff going on out there than that?
Yeah. And now it's all changing. It's definitely, it's up for review, and it ain't going to look like the past. No. That's what I love
Yeah.
about Pluto. It's like how you've known that is that life is done. That life, and that's, you know, I just wanted to say in closing, I just wanted to celebrate so much. I was crying for hours when the Chauvin verdict was announced, and I just couldn't stop crying. And I was like, I just want to celebrate. I want to celebrate. And I just wanted to go to Minneapolis, and I wanted to buy up all this ice cream, you know, with Venus being, right? It's like Venus and Taurus. I just wanted to buy all this ice cream and stand there and just put up a sign, free ice cream, and just hand out ice cream to everybody. You know, I'm like, God, that
Ice
would
cream
make
and
me,
hugs.
yeah, hugs, ice cream, hugs. I mean, like, God, somebody, I don't know if you heard, but somebody rained down, they took dollar bills and threw them all in the street.
Wow.
They just went all in front of Cup Foods. Oh, I just got chills. I'm like, oh my God, another Venus thing, right? There it is, money, you know, money, ice cream, sweets, hugs, connection. Um, that's why I knew that. I know they both had said in the old way of, you know, that you can't, you know, it's very hard to convict a police officer, blah, 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 but I'm like, man, you know, now that this, you know, Venus and Taurus, and just, no, it's gonna, there's something peaceful and fair and everything. It's gonna come out of this. And, you know, you happen to mention something about the blue, what is it called, code blue, or the blue line, about the police officers always hug, right? But that's, I realized the other day, that's another Pluto in Capricorn takedown. And Saturn in Aquarius squaring Uranus is like, wait a minute, you know, and that we're rewriting the rules, and it's not about just covering for somebody, because these people, this man, he broke the law,
He
you
did
know.
wrong. He did wrong. And I mean, I, I mean, to think about those people being powerless around, well, you know, and videotaping, and, you know, and the woman who was like a firefighter, like, I'm a firefighter, like, this is not okay. And like him just still doing that, like
And he was still doing
that power, that's that 1%, that power thing is like, no, you know, that should have been one of the other officers who should have said like, no, you
yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah, cut it out. Enough is enough. He's subdued. You don't have to overdo it, the overkill. But
Like,
that
really?
teenager, the young girl whose cell phones, was it Darnella, that young woman? Oh my God, this teenager changed the world. I mean, that's, if I were the editor of Time magazine, I'd put her on the cover. But in a way, no, because I thought about this. I'm like, that girl is only 16. Like, she needs to live her life and give her privacy, you know. But I think it's kind of too late for that.
Maybe
She,
the power, maybe like just the phone, you know, the image of being the film, the image of it, and the capturing of it is just because now, you know, and the body cams for the police officers, you know, this is Saturn is also accountability, you
yes,
know, of authority, you know, and in Aquarius too, it's like, you know, not being above the law, you know, it's like being brought back down from the clouds, like, you know, you can't do that.
right, yeah, and here it is.
Yeah.
It's
Wow. I
fascinating.
know. Just thank goodness. I mean, but there's more to be done.
Yeah, and that's what I feel too. It's like I want to just keep celebrating, and then, but I kept reading these headlines, and they're still saying, well, you know, there's more work to be done. I'm like, I know there is, of course, but can't we just keep the Libra rising in me just wants to keep celebrating the good part, and it's like, I know there is, but let's do that in the spirit of this divine grace, and we will get it. It's just different from the past, and thank God, because we waited our whole lives for this. I remember being a little kid, and when Martin Luther King, when he was killed, and then 6 weeks later was Bobby Kennedy. That was the spring of 1968. And it's like, I remember as a child going, what the hell, what is going on here? I was like, I didn't understand it. I didn't have the words or the mind for it, but I could feel it, like psychically or energetically, like, gosh, you know, this world is like crazy. Like to have those two go down in 6 weeks was like, what the, you know, and that was 1968, 53 years ago. And here we are. We have to celebrate accountability. Like, all right, okay, we'll take it. But the other thing I came up with, Michael, was I was thinking, what if there was some like space being alien floating around above the Earth, looking down at all this? What would they be thinking? Like, really, dudes, you have to celebrate. History is made because somebody finally got the lesson of accountability. Wow, you know, it's like, but that's how dense our planet has been, that we have to, that this stands as this breakthrough. But now, of course, things being exponential, you know, we're going to move to that a place where it won't be. It's expected. We can't celebrate accountability. That's supposed to be the norm. But look how screwed up everything has been. If that's where we had to, you know, it just makes you realize, you know, how dense everything has been. It's just another wake up call. But thank God we've turned
for all the air. I mean, that's where I think we're lucky with the Saturn Jupiter thing in air that started off last year, and the 3 Mercury retrogrades in air this year. Because I think really, you know, it's Earth has to be broken up, and there needs to be a little more circulation of things in a way that isn't just so compacted and
that we're going to listen to other. Yeah. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Yay.
Hey.
So tell us again the name of your website and how people can reach you. People, where to get this reading. You know, you want to talk to Michael. Oh, hell's bells.
Right. Yeah, you have some fun. So my website, coremichael.com, CORE, Michael, MICHAEL.com. Or you can email me at michael@coremichael.com. I've got some free resources on there, just look along there, and also things that I write about and links up to other fun stuff. What a real treat. Thank you. Bless you for all that you do and the awareness you bring to the planet, and your joy and your happiness and your Venus and Taurus love for everyone. All the sugary sweetness you give us all.
Thank you.
In a good way, good sugar. I should say honey.
Healthy sugar, right? Non-GMO. All natural, organic. Yeah, thank you so much. And I know this will be the first of many. I just know in my heart. So until that time, yes, go forth and have a fabulous class and classes with Stormie. I know it'll be absolutely awesome. And so, all right, everybody, this was episode 98, oh my goodness, and we have more fun, juicy things lined up. So we'll be, you know, moving along with that. And until next time, thank you so much. Namaste, staying in your heart, keep celebrating life and love and unconditional love. And so this is StarSound Speaks, starsoundastrology.com, Irliana Samsara. Thank you all so much for listening, and may you all be blessed. We love you. Okay. Bye for now.